Well, hello there. Can you hear me? This is my new microphone. That is what is happening. I hope everybody's good. The new mic is operational. Tell me if it's not working. That's critically important. If you cannot hear me, make sure you tell me. Thank you for joining my live stream. Like I said, I've been doing 2 of these a week, so I'm going to continue to do as many as I can twice a week as we try to build this channel out. If you guys have noticed, I'm doing more. I'm doing more content overall, just because I'm interested in doing more content overall. So I'm doing more content. So I hope people dig it. And if you have questions. I got my Georgetown shirt on, by the way. We beat Syracuse over the weekend. Boom. If you have questions, ask them. Now is the time. Throw them in the old chat there. A couple pitches. One, if you do not subscribe to this channel, it's so easy. Just subscribe. It couldn't be easier. Just go hit subscribe. 2, if you like this sort of stuff, hold on, I'm moving my microphone. If you like this sort of stuff, check out my written work and a little bit of video stuff over at my Substack, which is just a newsletter that you can get in your inbox, chriscillizza.substack.com. chriscillizza.substack.com. Tell me in the comments if this is better sound, if you're happier with this sound. I hope so, because this is my new microphone that Paul Robinson, one of our supporters, and others of you helped pay for. It was $169. Thank you for the donations. Speaking of which, I will answer as many questions as I can over about a 40 or 45 minutes time frame. And then and if you want to donate to me, and I always say it's not necessary, but it is appreciated because this is how I make my money. This is how I make my living. Please do so. And what I will give in exchange, in response, is I will make sure your question gets bumped up to the top of the list, and I will answer it quickly. I will try to excuse me. I will try to answer everybody's question, whether you donate to me or not. But if you want to, it is very, very much appreciated, because this is how I make my living. Okay, so Substack, Substack, go over and check it out. 75% of the content's free. chriscillizza.substack.com. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and do me a favor, like this video, like this live stream, so that we can bump up in the algorithm. All right, starting from the top, here we go. Tommy Farrell. Tommy says, it was a wild ride to watch your "This is no way to run the government" video, and then tune in to Meet the Press Now and hear Congress was hard at work to pass the bald eagle as the national bird bill. So right before I came on, Tommy, so that's like, it's 7:00 Eastern here. Republicans unveiled the 1,573-page bill that will keep the government open. To be clear, so it is Tuesday at 7 p.m. They have to vote and pass this thing by Friday night, or the government runs out of money. I guess they could pass an extension of some sort, but they've got to pass it quickly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's going to spend billions of dollars, and nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to even know what's in it. And by the way, it only keeps the government open for 3 months. In March, we're going to have the same fight. Like, this is not how things should work. Like, not a partisan statement. This is just not how things should work. We're spending billions, with a B, billions of dollars on this stuff. And even the people voting on it do not know where it goes and what it's for. Sherry Zimmerman. Greetings, Chris. Please take a moment to remind your audience of the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. Most of our fathers never spoke of their fears, and yet we know how many were there. Well said. Thank you, Sherry, for the reminder. Luke Growth. Hey, Chris, when is the DNC chair race done? Tim Walz have a political future. I know you aren't his biggest fan, but I think he's really affable and a good messenger. All right, that's one. I like it, Luke. Way to be a good reporter. The DNC will be at the end of January in close to where I am. It's in Maryland, just across. So that'll be at the end of January. It's like 455 Democratic National Committee members will vote on it. I think, what is his name? Ben Martin, the guy from Minnesota, is the front runner right now. He's got the most endorsements. He's kind of an inside player. So we'll see. Speaking of Minnesota, that allows me a quick transition over to Tim Walz. I don't think he has a future on the national stage, no. But I don't think Minnesota has a term limit on their governor, so I think he could run for another term. I mean, I think he's a perfectly affable Midwestern governor. I don't think he's a national party candidate. Keep your questions coming. Ben Thompson. Ben says, do you think Pete Buttigieg will run for Michigan governor in 2026? And will Mark Robinson primary that North Carolina senator up in 2026? So let me take the second one first. So the senator you're referencing is Tom Tillis, who is about as moderate and non-Trumpy as you can be in the current iteration of the Republican Party, Ben. You know, Mark Robinson seems to me very damaged goods. I would guess sort of the MAGA crowd would try to find someone better than him to be their nominee against Tillis if they wanted to primary him. I don't know if Tillis is going to run again. If he does, I could see him getting a primary, and Democrats will field a serious candidate there. It's one of their few pickup opportunities. I don't think that's going to be Mark Robinson, though. To your other question, will Pete Buttigieg run for Michigan governor in 2026? So I think Buttigieg has to decide, does he want to run for president in 2028? If he does, he should not run for Michigan governor. By the way, he moved to Michigan, just in case people are wondering. Yes, he is from South Bend, Indiana. Yes, he moved to Michigan. He can't do both. Realistically. I mean, of course he could logistically, but I don't think politically he can. And here's why. He's already going to have a carpetbagger issue because he's from Indiana and he moved to Michigan. So it's going to be really hard for him to run a campaign in Michigan without him pledging to serve for 40 years, at least 4 years. And obviously that precludes running for president. So I think he's got to choose one or the other, and I don't know which one he'll pick. Barnaby Jones, God Awful Productions first. Hello, Chris. Two quick questions. Who does the best Trump impression, and what is your favorite holiday tradition? My favorite holiday tradition is Christmas carols. I love Christmas carols. Love them. From the day after Thanksgiving on, I listen to them. Who does the best Trump impression? It's a really good. There's a guy on Instagram who does one, and I don't know exactly who he is. I'll have to find it. There's a guy on Instagram. That's not useful information, but Barnaby Jones, of course she lost. She's a loser. You of all people should be able to identify one of your own. I don't totally, first of all, not a question, but second of all, I don't totally know what that's in response to, but thank you for taking the time to call me a loser, I guess. Mikhail Yagorinkov. Hello, Chris from Almaty, Kazakhstan. I'm curious if you're aware of Sean Fain. Would he be a good presidential contender? Sorry if my English is bad. Your English is way better than that. Your English is perfect. Thank you for participating. So Sean Fain is the labor leader. I don't think he is a presidential type candidate. No, I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but no, I don't think so. I mean, I think he could have some support, but probably not a majority support. So by the way, people, keep asking questions. The more questions you ask, the longer I can go. Barry Riley, your post on the ABC lawsuit from Trump made me watch The Insider with Al Pacino again. Great movie dealing with corporate control over journalism. You know what? Confession. I have not seen The Insider. I'm going to write it down to see, but thank you. That is good. I'm glad it got you thinking, Barry. By the way, folks, just give the thumbs up here. I need all the support I can. Over 100 people on this chat, only 29 thumbs up. Let's thumb it up. Zook, Pepsi, Coke, or Dr. Pepper? Not even close. Pepsi, Coke, or Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is the best. I don't know what's in there. So when I was a kid, it's probably an urban myth, but when I was a kid, the thing that people always said is why it tastes so distinctive is because it has prunes in it. But I don't think that's actually true, but that was what people always told me. Fun fact, if you were in Texas, you get the actual cane sugar in it because they can transport it closer than shipping it all over. So you get actual cane sugar, which is kind of weird and fun. James G. Hall. Hello, Chris. Not sure if my question went through last week. Any thoughts on the Virginia governor's race? I think Democrats are the slight flavorites as Youngkin is term limited. Yes, absolutely. So the Republican nominee is going to be Winsome Sears, who's the lieutenant governor, a black woman, Republican, which is intriguing. The Democratic nominee, I think, is going to be Abigail Spanberger, who's a retiring member of Congress from the north of Richmond suburban, kind of between Richmond and D.C. That's where she represents. CIA background. Bobby Scott, who's a former congressman from African-American congressman from Tidewater, Hampton Roads area, which is in the southeast part of the state, is kind of throwing his name out there. I don't know if he ultimately runs. If he does, it's a problem for Spanberger, but I think she probably wins the primary. I would say that if it's Spanberger versus Sears, I would give Spanberger a little bit of an edge. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Virginia is a Democratic leaning state. I know Trump came closer than people thought in November, but he still lost. And I think in a neutral year or a year where there's a little backlash against Republicans controlling everything in Washington, I think that the Democrat probably has an advantage. Oh gosh, sorry, I just screwed up there. Ben Smith, who's everyone's favorite for DNC chair? I'm pulling for Ben Wickler. Yeah, so Ben Wickler is the Wisconsin State Party chair. I think a lot of people like him. I still think Ken Martin, the guy from Minnesota, has an edge. We'll see if Rahm Emanuel runs. He's coming back from Japan. He's the ambassador to Japan. This is the former Chicago mayor, former member of Congress, former Obama White House first chief of staff. So we'll see. And Matt Aarons points out it's Ken Martin. I said Ben Martin. It's Ken Martin and Ben Wickler. Thank you, Matt. Sorry for screwing that up. Let's see. Maurice Playford said the sound is great and clear. Awesome. Kathy McIntyre says it is better sound. Good. James G. Hall. Yeah, sounds better. Okay, 3 for 3. RJ Ware, you've talked about Gavin Newsom, Wes Moore, Josh Shapiro, Pete Buttigieg, and others are likely candidates to run in 2028. What will they have to do to position themselves for a successful run? Thanks for all you do. Man, RJ, if I knew that, I'd be making more money. I think they have to be a prominent part of figuring out what the Democratic Party looks like going forward. What do they talk about? What do they put front and center? What issues do they choose to focus on? What communities do they choose to sort of target for those messages? So I think just kind of being in that conversation is the first step. And Newsom has definitely been the most aggressive out of that group that you named in doing that, though I expect the others will sort of step in there too. Sly Fox. Oh, Elliot Pacheco says Puerto Rico for President Donald Trump. Okay. Sly Fox. Hey, Chris, do you think it's possible to get term limits for Congress as a constitutional amendment? No, because you know who has to approve an amendment to the Constitution? 2/3 of the House and Senate. There's no way 66% of the House and Senate is going to say, yeah, let's definitely put a marker on when I have to leave here. This amazing job that I really like and that gets me a lot of attention. No chance. Let's see. Anthony Piccion. The same people who say AOC can't win in a post-Trump era also said a guy named Barack Hussein Obama couldn't win in a post-9/11 era. Your response? Yeah. I mean, look, my view on all these things, Obama and I'll add Donald Trump into that mix. I'm not sure we should be making predictions about who can and can't win 4 years before an election, right? I think it's wide open. I think a lot of the old rules don't apply. Barack Obama did not follow the sort of traditional establishment way of running for president, stay in the Senate for a long time and then run. He kind of skipped the line. Donald Trump didn't serve an elected office at all. So I don't know that we can say like, oh, she could never win. I mean, maybe not. She is constitutionally eligible to run for president. She's 35 years old. She was born in the United States. So let's see. Other questions. Folks, if you have questions, throw them in there. Let's see. John C. How departments look after these 4 years, such as DOH, DHS, DOJ, etc. I agree with RFK on some things like food quality. As a vegan, I think that's important, but also worry about vaccines. Yeah, RFK is interesting, right? Like, I think there are things like too much processed food. I agree with that. I eat way too much processed food. I think that there are food additives that are illegal in Europe that we allow in our food, dyes and that sort of thing. I don't think we should do that. On the other hand, the vaccine stuff, and he's trying to run away from the vaccine stuff, but, he was pretty outspoken about vaccines. He's got a history. So not totally sure that he's going to be able to get away from that. So he's an interesting guy in that he's not totally predictable. He says some things I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. And by the way, our sort of like public health operations have not been great in many ways. On the other hand, like I think vaccines are a good thing, and I don't think vaccines cause autism, right? So keep the questions coming, folks. Jordan Hirsch. Beyond abortion, what do you see as the most important issue for Democrats to run on between now and the midterms? I think abortion does matter and talking about it and the restriction of rights in states and that sort of thing and Supreme Court nominations. I think the thing I keep coming back to, Jordan, is I look at the exit polling done after the 2024 election and they ask people what's the most important issue and they give them a list. And the economy was number one. Not surprising. I think 3 in 10 voters said the economy, and that was the biggest chunk. Of that group, Donald, who said the economy was the most important issue, Donald Trump got 69% of the vote. Hillary Clinton. Kamala Harris got 29% of the vote. 40% gap, 40% delta. You have to find ways, if you're Democrats, you have to find ways to bridge that gap. You have to be relevant on the economy, inflation, grocery prices, eggs, gas. You have to be a credible messenger on that. And right now, I think the party isn't. So that, to me, is the thing you got to fix the most. Garv13, what is your thought as to why Donald Trump will not release his medical records? And you're right. He did get annual physicals when he was president, as all presidents do, but he has not released any details or even not that detailed information about his medical history or his past medical history or his medical history in the 4 years since he's been president. My guess is he's vain and he's more overweight than people let on, although I think he looks trimmer lately. Maybe that's just me, but I think he looks a little slimmer. But I think it's vanity would be my guess. I know some people think like he's hiding some sort of major medical condition. I don't think that's the case. But it is, he has fundamentally altered the kind of transparency argument on tax stuff, past tax records, past financial records, and medical records. Prior to him in the modern post-Watergate age, candidates for president released that sort of stuff. He didn't, and now they won't going forward, unfortunately. Kennedy Ivy, do you think Kamala has a political future or will become Al Gore part 2? So it's interesting. I talked to Chuck Todd on my Substack, NBC News Chuck Todd. I do it every Monday. So if you want to check that out, go to my Substack. And we talked about it. And his contention was, if Harris wants to be president, she can't run for governor in 2026 because she would likely win, which I agree with. I think she'd be the front runner, but she couldn't turn around and run in 2028 for president. That she would have to wait until at least 2032, maybe 2036, at which point she'd be in 70-ish. She'd have been not a presidential candidate for more than a decade. I still think like if things break right, and things would need to break right, but if things broke right, she could be a nominee or a potential nominee in 2032 if she ran for governor in 2026. So I think she has 3 options. 1, run for governor. 2, run for president in 2028. By the way, first option is run for governor and maybe run for president in 2032 or 2036. 2 is run for president in 2028. 3 is go out of politics, make money, leave politics, and don't run for anything again. I don't know which one she'll choose, but I think those are broadly her 3 options. Kyle McIntyre, people are talking a lot about what Kamala is going to do next. What do you think Pete Buttigieg is going to do between now and 2028? Well, I talked a little about it, Kyle. I think his decision is, does he want to run for governor of Michigan in 2026, or does he want to run for president in 2028? He can't do both, I don't think. So it's one or the other, and I would assume that decision will come in the first half of 2025. Haya Glamazon. Does Dean Phillips have a future in 2028? He was oddly prescient. He was totally right about the risk that Democrats were taking. And by the way, I wrote it and said it at the time. He was right about the risk Democrats were taking in nominating and just sort of walking into the Joe Biden thing with all the concerns in the public about his age and competence. So Dean Phillips was right. He was basically run out of the Democratic Party, or at least elected office, because of that. I don't know if he has a future in the Democratic Party, because to have a future, Democrats would have to admit they were wrong, and no one likes to admit they're wrong. Juicy Giraffe, great handle. Do you think Gen Z was radicalized into Republican, or was it because Trump had an edge by running against inflation? Yeah, I just think that, first of all, 18 to 29-year-olds still voted for Kamala Harris overall. 18 to 29-year-old men, Harris only won by 2 over Trump, which is significant. I just think that Trump was reaching them in places that Harris wasn't. The Rogan thing is a little overplayed, but that kind of Rogan world, like the Nelk Boys and Theo Vaughn and, like all of that space, I think Trump was like talking to them and they felt like Harris wasn't talking to them. And I guess that's what I would say. So I don't think they became Republicans. Um, I just think they kind of were intrigued in Trump. Um, let's see. RJ Ware, I recently read an interesting article about the rise of Susie Wiles. Is White House Chief of Staff the most under-talked about power play in Washington? I bet most people can't name the current White House Chief of Staff. It's Jeff Zients. Boom. But I am not most people. The White House Chief of Staff has a huge amount of power, particularly the first White House, like the first person the incoming president chooses. Susie Wiles is fascinating. I always note to people, Pat Summerall, the old kicker, and then booth partner with John Madden on CBS. That's her dad. So yeah, I mean, I think that person has a ton of. I think people who know about politics know how much influence a White House Chief of Staff has. But yeah, the average person probably doesn't pay all that much attention. Let's see. Brett Green, what do you think Trump will do within 24 hours of getting into office? I think he'll do something on border and immigration, some kind of executive order, something on drilling, because he always says, we're going to drill, baby, drill. And he'll try to announce something about Ukraine and Russia, maybe that he's going to meet with Putin and Zelensky. I think those are the three things he'll try to do. The first two, he can do something by executive order and say he's done something. Might be a little harder on the third one, but he's been coy about how much or how little he's talked to Vladimir Putin since the election, which makes me think he's cooking something up on that front. Garrett Gardner, now that the election is over, will we see you more regularly on the Tony Kornheiser show? So, Garrett, I basically try to do it once every other week. I think that's about the cadence Tony wants me to do it. So I'm going to try and keep that up. Sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's a month, but I love being on. It's super fun. I love the show. So I'm going to try to keep doing it as much as I can and as much as they want me. Let's see. Mackenzie, do you think Dems will flood the media zone by appearing on more podcasts to counter Trump? Probably. Yes, probably is the answer. I mean, I always think what winds up happening in politics is you fight the last war. So it's like, oh, we got to be on more podcasts. It's like, no, that was the last time. 2028 will be the something else election. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll go on more alternative media for sure. I think the reality is, I think calling 2024 the podcast election kind of misses the point. To me, it was the rise of the independent media content creator election. So YouTube, podcasting, TikTok, Instagram, all those things to me, Substack, all of those things to me just kind of soared upward while the mainstream media was going downward. So it's not just a one thing. I think the independent media rise dovetailed with the 2024 campaign. And I think that's what we got. Sorry, I'm just trying to get people who have not asked questions before or yet. I promise I will get to you if you have already asked one. Martin Land Services, what did you think of your first semester teaching at Georgetown? I liked it. I'll be honest, there was a little grade grubbing. I didn't love that. It was a little frustrating. A B plus, I guess, is seen as a bad grade on a paper by some kids nowadays. So I don't love that. But most of the kids were awesome and it was fun. And I hope they asked me to do it again. For stuff, do you have more trust in mainstream media, CNN, Fox, etc., or alternative media? I guess it's how you define alternative media. I mean, I have a lot of trust in some of these independent creators I know and like and admire because I think they're intellectually honest. I think they do it the right way. Alternative media encompasses such a broad spectrum. I don't know if I'd say that. I will say this. CNN, I know from the inside, they have a standards and practices unit that checks things. They have fact checkers that go through things before they run. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. I was literally just on News Nation with Dan Abrams talking about how mistakes, the Clarissa Ward thing in Syria was a mistake. It still happens. But they have those built in to try to not eliminate, but limit the number of mistakes they make. I don't know what that exists for all of alternative media. I mean, generally, I think independent media, which is kind of how I'm positioning it, has more of a future business-wise than mainstream media. Is that a better thing in terms of trust? I don't totally know. All right, sorry, we got a bunch of questions pouring in. Let me just make sure I get to them all. James G. Hall says the electoral college vote took place today, and it looks like there won't be any faithless electors. Is the era of faithless electors over? Man, I hope so, James. So in 2004, there was that faithless elector, right? Because Bush won 286 251, which is 537, not 538. I hope so. I think it's so dumb. David Tarvin. David, thank you so much for your donation. Hey, Chris, I got burned by the David asked this. Hey, Chris, I got burned by the pro-democracy, anti-Trump independent media. Where can I find more unbiased info? Bonus question, do you have plans to build or be part of a larger independent group? Well, look, to your first question, I hope that you subscribe to this channel. I have, my background is Washington Post, CNN, and now this. I hope that I am a source of unbiased info. I hope you check out my Substack. It's actually not over there. I just say, check out my Substack, cillizza.substack.com. Again, tons of the content over there is free. If you want to pay, it's $6 a month or $60 for the year. Do I have any plans to build or be part of a larger independent group? I'm kind of thinking through what that looks like. I've been an independent operator for the last 18 months or so. I don't know. I'm having a bunch of interesting conversations. I'm always on the hunt for investors, people who want to help me build something and have some financial resources to put behind it. I'm also kind of trying to figure out what the YouTube and Substack, where I spend most of my time creating content, like what does that look like going forward? So I'm thinking on it, David, is the answer. Thank you for your thoughtful question. And thank you very much for your donation. That's very much appreciated. Let's see. Thomas Zampino, if you haven't already addressed it, what do you think about the Trump lawsuit commenced in Des Moines regarding the pollster in the paper? So if you're not familiar with this, quick backstory. Ann Selzer is a great pollster. She does polling for the Des Moines Register. She once did polling for Bloomberg nationally, but she's a great Iowa pollster in particular. She's gotten 1 million of the races there, right, including the presidential. She comes out with a poll a week before the election, maybe, that has Harris up 4 in Iowa, which would be a gigantic shocker. No one thought Iowa was competitive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it turns out to be wrong. Trump wins Iowa by 13 points. Trump is now suing her for, I forget the exact language, but essentially suggesting that she cooked the numbers, that she made up the numbers, or she fudged or manipulated the numbers to try to drive a narrative that Trump was going to lose. I can't imagine that lawsuit is going to be successful. Ann Selzer has been a credible pollster for decades. Yes, this was an outlier. Yes, she was wrong. No, I don't think there was a motive behind it. I mean, it worries me that this is even happening on top of the ABC decision to settle the defamation lawsuit on Donald Trump, on top of Meta and OpenAI and Amazon making $1 million donations to Trump's inauguration fund, on top of the Washington Post and the LA Times refusing to let their editorial boards endorse. Yeah, all that worries me. And as an independent creator, of course, I'm concerned about litigiousness, because even if it's a frivolous lawsuit, it's going to cost Ann Selzer and the Des Moines Register money to defend themselves, right? So Donald Trump's got more money than Ann Selzer does. I guarantee you that. Donald Trump definitely has more money than Cillizza. So yeah, it definitely worries me. Zook, what role do you think Iowa will play in the rest of the 20s in America? I'm an Iowan. I mean, I don't know is the answer. I mean, it will stay first, I think, for Republicans. It will be the first vote for the Republican nominating process in 2028. Biden changed it to South Carolina because basically South Carolina won it for him in 2020. So in 2024, which didn't matter because there wasn't a primary, but he moved South Carolina first. I don't know if they go back to Iowa, New Hampshire, and then South Carolina, or they keep it with South Carolina first. We'll see. I think Iowa will be among the first states, but I don't know if it'll be the first on the Democratic side, at least. Let's see. Hose Roo says, OMG, the new mic, love. Okay, so it's working. So we are pro the new mic, right? This is good. Like, even if I'm here, like back a little bit, you guys can hear me okay? It'd be amazing if you could. Gabrielle says, hi from Miami. Hey, hello. It's warmer there than it is here. Jim Maxfield, I enjoyed the thing you did with Van Jones. Are you going to do more of that? Yes. So what I'm doing, just for people who, if you see more content on YouTube, Substack has now made it so that I can just directly post videos I make for Substack onto YouTube. So I do a lot of video content over at Substack. So I'm cross-posting a bunch of it, though not all of it, because some of it's behind the paywall at Substack. I'm cross-posting a bunch of it, including the interview I did with Van Jones. That was actually a Substack live. It was kind of like this, where you could kind of ask questions and scroll, and Van and I talked. It was great. Yes, I'm definitely going to do more of that. I did one with Damon Linker, who's a political science professor at Penn, and also writes a great Substack called Notes from the Middle Ground. I'm going to try and do more of those. Yeah, I thought the Van one was amazing. Like, whether you agree with Van or not, he's incredibly honest and he's incredibly unafraid. Yeah. Lil Robot. Also, Keith Olbermann said some rather severe, insulting things about you. As a fan of both of you, even if Keith is totally hair on fire all the time, it's kind of awkward to bring this up. No, I know. I don't follow Keith, but I know Keith says a lot of bad things about me. Whatever, man. Like, he thinks about me a lot more than I think about him. And by the way, and I've said this repeatedly, Keith is incredibly talented. He's brilliant. He is a television and video genius, period. I don't know why he doesn't like me so much, but Zook, how influential are libertarians in the U.S.? Not very influential. Let's see. Lil Robot, I'm concerned the Democrats will learn nothing from this loss. They don't tend to. The leadership and donors and consultants are far too entrenched. So, Lil Robot, check out the conversation I had with Van Jones. It's on YouTube. It's also on my Substack, particularly when he talks about Democrats. That's probably about 10 minutes into it, and it goes from about the 10 to the 30-minute mark. I mean, he goes off, and he agrees with you. H, this is a bad question. Was running a woman for president a mistake? I don't think it's a bad question. Random fact, I was at one of my son's intermediate school basketball game. He's a 7th grader today. I was using the bathroom after the game, and a guy was like, so who do you think is going to win in 2028? And we talked about which was semi-awkward, but not that as awkward as you might think. And we talked about whether, because I always say Gretchen Whitmer makes sense in 2028, and I thought Gretchen Whitmer made sense in 2024. Obviously, it didn't play out that way, and they couldn't have picked Gretchen Whitmer, but because Harris was the default nominee. But I do think, look, smart Democrats I talked to are like, we can't nominate another woman. The country's not ready for a woman. I don't know how I feel about that. First of all, it's 4 years from now, so who the hell knows? Number two, to the like AOC and Barack Hussein Obama question from earlier, like, history is predictive until it isn't. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, oh yeah, well, we can't elect a woman. Well, sure, until we do, and then you're like, well, why didn't they run a woman before? So I don't know what I think about that at the moment. RJ Ware, even though the MSM is struggling, who are some anchors who are trustworthy? Lester Holt, Brett Baer. So people I like who I think are intellectually honest and unafraid of saying things that they know the left or right won't like. Jake Tapper, Chuck Todd, Brett Baer. I know all these people a little bit. I know Chuck the best, but I know all these people a little, just by way of sort of, so that you guys know. I don't follow broadcast news. So I'm sure Lester's, I just don't know him and I don't listen to it. So I don't know, but those are three I would name. SD Guy 1234 says Team Cillizza. Love it. SD Guy 1234 says, boo, talk trash about Keith. Let's hear it. No, I'm not going to talk trash about Keith because I don't really have anything to say. He's a bright guy who seems like he's angry, really angry. Ricardo Zatino, what's your prediction for the governor's race, Virginia governor's race next year? Ricardo, I did that earlier in the stream, but I will tell you, I think Democrats have a slight advantage, particularly if it's Abigail Spanberger against Winsome Sears, which I think it will be. Elaine H said the Van Jones interview was awesome. I thought it was awesome too. Like, whether you like Van or me, I just thought it was great content. I thought it was thoughtful and honest and authentic and like the kind of conversation we should have on TV if people still watch TV. But the kind of conversation we can have online that are really, really, really good. Let's see. Brett Green, do you think Democrats will revert to 2016 resist Trump mode or just kind of not care anymore? I don't know, Brett. I think they're trying to figure that out right now. I mean, there will be a resistance movement, but I will tell you, post 2024 Trump win, way less kind of resistance type energy in Washington than post 2016. Not even close. Let's see. Dan Lanning's PR team says, who will be the Democrats' Newt Gingrich? Do you mean kind of like the big idea guy who leads them on a march back to the majority? I don't know. Hakeem Jeffries? I mean, he's in position to. I think AOC is very interesting. I made videos about it. I've talked about it many times. I think that's very interesting. Brett Green, are you excited to see Anderson Cooper get hammered on New Year's Eve? Yes. I mean, I don't feel like Anderson gets hammered. But Don Lemon, who's not with CNN anymore, he was always fun on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve. So it's kind of a bummer he's not there anymore. Anyway, let me see if I missed anybody else. If you have a question, throw it in now or forever hold your peace. Zook, do you think the drone stuff in Jersey will increase regulations for drones? I hope. It's crazy that it's unregulated. I mean, it's basically lawless, the Wild West, right? People just flying things all over the place. So I hope that it does, but I don't know that it will. I will say Congress is a reactive entity. So while drones have been flying around forever, they apparently have now gotten a lot of attention because of New Jersey. And maybe that's the impetus for doing some kind of regulation. Hold on. I'm making sure if I didn't miss anybody else. Off topic a bit. This is Garv 13, but that cap on your bookshelf is dope. If only we could have that as a choice last month. These are my guys right here. Eric B and Rakim. I mean, if you want a rap group, I mean, I would vote for this ticket. They are amazing. Let's go backwards. MJ, thoughts on the New Jersey governor Democratic primary? Interesting to see Mikey Sherrill and Josh Gottheimer facing each other. It is, and I don't know if that will play all the way out. Like if they'll both stay in it the whole time. Mikey Sherrill to me is really intriguing as a candidate. So we'll see. But let's see here. There we go. So we'll see. This hat's a little big, actually. Jeez, it makes my head look gigantic. Well, such is life. It looks good on my shelf. H says Rakim is the top 3 rapper of all time. Totally agree. So Nas, Rakim, and maybe Kendrick Lamar. I don't know. Dan Lenning's PR team, Commanders playoff chances. I think the Commanders will make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a 7 seed, but I think they will make the playoffs. Let's see. Love Robot, do you think a big tent populist party could happen, a la the NPP from TNO or Reform Party 2000? I mean, Trump might annoy the paleocons by going hawkish, and the Dems are annoying their base. I just don't think there's a third party out there. I just don't. I mean, it's not impossible, but why is this hat so big? Is it my glasses? Let me take my glasses off. Does that look better? I can't see anything. I haven't put this hat on. It's too big, right? It looks too big. I don't know. I'm skeptical of third parties, just in general, like a credible third party. I'd be surprised. Ed Monroe, what do you think Dems can do to combat the right-wing billionaire spending? Nothing makes me more nervous than 2-to-1 PAC spending advantage. How do you compete with that influence? You know, I just think at the presidential level, it doesn't matter that much. I know you don't want to hear that, but we're talking about 6 to 8 billion, maybe more spent on this race. I know Musk and the Mellon guy, the 2 conservative donors, spent more than anybody else, but I just don't think. Yes, see, Dr. Banana says the hat is too big for me. Why is that? I love this hat, but I don't think I can wear it. It's just gonna have to be on the shelf. It is. It's too. Damn it. I just don't think money is decisive in a presidential race. I mean, I know it matters at some level, but I just don't think it's decisive. Fun question from RJ Ware. Have you seen political TV shows, House of Cards, West Wing? Do you like them, and which are the most realistic? I'm not a House of Cards fan at all. I like West Wing okay. I love Veep the best. Pocket Watch says, rock the hat, you got this. I just don't think I got this. It makes my dome look tiny. It's like this high on my head. It's not great. All right. Let me wrap it up there. As always, we had 200 people on this chat on a Tuesday night, and we're just going to keep building, right? I'm going to keep trying to do this at a regular time. So thank you for your support. Thank you for the microphone. I'm glad it sounds better. That makes me happy. And as always, a couple things. One, do me a favor, like this, thumbs up this chat if you haven't. The mic is getting better reviews than the hat. So the mic is favored over the hat. The hat is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing hat, and I'll have it back there. But the hat can't be worn. It's an unwearable hat. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. We're at like 50,000, 51,000 maybe. So let's keep building as we go. MSU fan, I've most likely Democratic candidate in 2028. Who the hell knows? I don't know. A bunch of them are going to run for it, but I don't know who's going to win. Like Buttigieg might run, Newsom, Harris, Shapiro, Whitmer, J.B. Pritzker, Wes Moore, Cory Booker, John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock. That's 10 that I just came up with at the top of my head. Barry Riley said the sound is much better. The hat is only okay. I think that's fair. Okay, so I'm going to end. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Just hit subscribe and make sure you like this video. We have over 100 likes. Do me a favor and like it. It's for the algorithm. It gets more eyeballs on this. Spread the word. If you have friends who have not subscribed to this channel or enemies who you think would like it, tell them. The other thing you can do to support me, go to my Substack. I'm writing every single day, multiple times a day. Like I said, 75% of the content's free. Cillizza.substack.com. My name is Cillizza. That's how you spell it. So thank you to everyone. Again, I'm making videos every day, and I'm doing 2 live streams, one on Tuesdays, one on Fridays. Thanks for checking this one out from my new microphone. I'm going to go out for a walk. Everybody take care of themselves and take care of each other.